Hey everybody, welcome back to another Blind Tuesdays. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. Excuse me if you hear my cat in the background, she's just eating food right now. And excuse me if my voice also seems still a little just under the weather. I'm just getting out of my cold, so excuse me if just my voice is not 100%. Um, but I just got done watching this, and I'm just gonna do the right into the review. So we're back to another Blind Tuesdays. And for this Blind Tuesdays, we are doing films from the 30s. And there's obviously quite a few films I could have gone with, and notable films like Wizard of Oz I could have gone with. And I was actually set initially for The Wizard of Oz, but I remember this film coming out in the 30s, and I was curious enough to check it out. Didn't even know, oddly enough, that John Wayne actually himself starred in the film. And if I look it up real quick, just to see real quick, um, it would be actually his breakout role. Um, so that film that we're going to be discussing is Stagecoach, which was directed by John Ford, written by Dudley Nicholas, who is most notably directed film or wrote films such as The Stagecoach and The Informer, which apparently had some issues within the Academy in terms of recognition or something. I'm not sure, um, but this is Stagecoach, and this was released in 1939, and it was based off of uh, a short story called "The Stage to Lordsburg," which was written by Ernest Hax Cox, and it follows a group of people, strangers, all strangers to each other, as they all have very varying objectives at play, varying goals to getting to Lordsburg. And Lordsburg is tainted with a war that is going on with the Native Americans, and there's hesitations when they get towards said place, and there are dangers afoot. But ultimately, as they journey through this stagecoach, riding on the stagecoach, hence the name of the title, they learn a lot about each other and about their varying objectives, their personalities, their moral ideologies, and within that, they start to develop a bondage towards each other, developing a less of a prejudice against each other, and learning to value each other as companions and more importantly as people. And within that, there's also the ideas of objectives and about loyalties within that. So primarily, it is discussing of that three about bondage, objectives, about loyalties. And what you get from it, which I must say, I'm familiar with John Ford. I've seen his a later film of his, The Searchers, which would star John Wayne, and to vague memory, I remember enjoying that piece quite a bit. Um, but I've been hearing about Stagecoach. I mean, Stagecoach being a very important piece in regards to the Western genre, the billing, and the kind of one of the building blocks of what we would know as classic Westerns. More famously, we would, at least by the Western genre, we would be more familiarized with that as spaghetti Westerns, as that kind of became the more so the popular, choice of showcasing that of the cowboy and that sensibility, and that on and being originated from that of the samurai, which I've echoed before in discussion of Kurosawa, that the samurai and the cowboy have always had a symbiotic link, especially when you discuss that of the spaghetti westerns. But in the true classic westerns, which that this is definitely of, it has its own distinct flavoring. And I gotta say, even though, I mean, the one quibble that I would give to it right off the bat is that there is, a blend. There's obviously like many varying stories at play, specifically nine stories with straight nine strangers, and within that you have to develop many personalities and many, many things within that. Um, and On the surface, you get, fair personas. I mean, you get fair traits, fair things that kind of, just spill over as the film moves through. There's this whole thing about people getting one person's name wrong throughout the entire film. He's like, my name's Peacock. It's like, no, this is that, blah, blah. There's the person that drinks a lot who happens to also be a very good doctor. There's the lonesome cowboy. There's a lot of, very just surface level, very one sentence note type, things. And what the film um, does at some point is that it starts to gradually become entangled and more interested within a certain story and progress towards that character specifically or that dynamic and leave the others kind of to fizzle out. Specifically that of John Wayne. John Wayne's character just comes along and then his story becomes eventually the forefront, especially when we get towards the end. That just basically becomes his story. Um, and a lot of those other stories just start to just trickle out and just start to just fall off. And that would be the one issue that I would take with it is that those many stories ultimately do kind of move to the side in favor of another story. Um, but until we get to that point, I think that what it does very well is balance a lot of those personality types and a lot of those objectives and stories at play. And a lot of the interplay is very, very rewarding. I think the performances are great. I think all of them do very, very well and play off well with each other. Um, and I like that it doesn't feel as though that there's because when you are dealing with that many people, 9 people, you run the risk of some not feeling well integrated or feeling purposeful within the group. But everybody feels purposeful in the group, even if it is again kind of a one note or a one trick pony in terms of their characteristics. It feels warranted and it feels appropriate. It doesn't feel as though that they're just not welcomed. Everybody feels well integrated, even if they're not completely fleshed out or having like rich characteristics to them. Um, and visually, I mean, it is quite breathtaking. I mean, the many big wide shots of them flying through the desert, through the through Monument Valley, which apparently, according to the Wikipedia page, this film is one of the first of many, or actually was the first of many westerns that John Ford himself would end up shooting in the Mojave and the Monument Valley, um, and um, and of course, beginning his collaborations with John Wayne himself, um, but but yeah, visually there is great strengths to the film, and I think that the other thing that I found to be very very involving about it is a lot of the pacing. There's a lot of time where we actually sit with the characters because you'd think that there might be it might be one of those that just kind of moves and moves and moves, and really it doesn't. A lot of the time it just sits with these characters and allows them to express themselves and to express their own dilemmas, and within that we get a more, like I said, a more in-depth understanding of everybody at play, and a little bit more of, again, like I said, on the surface, there's a lot of just, like it's very surface level, in terms of just the depth itself, but ultimately you get more things to chew on because of the allowance of these characters to just express themselves. Hence, the movie slowing down and allowing us to sit with these objectives, even though I acknowledge that these objectives are fairly insubstantial, you know? They're just kind of surface level sort of things, but it works. I mean, there is stakes, there is drama. There's also tension as when we get to the action. The action pieces are just astounding, especially when we get to that one specific chase scene with them getting chased by the natives and through the desert. I mean, that's just a treat. Just that entire sequence is a treat. Um, but but I found it to be very, very good. I mean, obviously there are some small quibbles that I take with it. Like I said, the the overall the favoritism of stories starts to show, at towards the end, and and within that, some of those storylines start to fizzle out or um, not to feel as um, conclusive, but that journey that we do take, and the interplay, the performances themselves, the aesthetic, the overall the manner of the film, understanding when it needs to take its time, and allowing ourselves to really understand these characters rudimentary, even though I say that the rudimentary is, stuff that is surface level, but in the delivery of it, there is a sense of depth and a sense of investment and engagement. Like at one point, I just caught myself just recognizing my own investment into the film, recognizing that I was really involved with it, and and it really, 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 really keeps you engaged and really keeps you fascinated, even if those stories start to trickle out towards the end. So I think it's very, very good, and I think that um, I'd be interested to see more of John Ford's, collaborations with John Wayne, maybe revisiting The Searchers just to get maybe an understanding of which one is better. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very, very good. Even if, like I said, the storylines, most of the storylines kind of just filter out in favor of John Wayne's. But ultimately, I think that it's um, aesthetically astounding and acted greatly, and just literally in terms of the storytelling, it is it is told in a manner that is completely rewarding and creates that further investment, that intrigue, and that sense of depth. And it doesn't, and it just generally just makes for something very involving and, like I said, very rewarding as a result. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Stagecoach. I thought it was very good. You guys let me know your thoughts on Stagecoach if you guys have seen it. Sorry if I'm kind of rushing through. I'm just getting a little hot wearing this jacket. Um, but you guys let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below in regards to Stagecoach and your thoughts on John Ford if you guys are familiar with his films, as well as John Wayne if you guys are, of course, familiar with his filmography. And of course, this being a Blind Tuesdays, I will be spinning the wheel on my own time, so whatever I land on, it will be right here, and that will be for next week's Blind Tuesdays. So there you guys have it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know all your thoughts in regards to the Western genre. What kind of Western do you also favor? Do you favor a straight Western like this, or do you favor something like Clint Eastwood's film, Sergio Leone, the type of spaghetti Westerns, that sort of subgenre? Do you prefer the primary, or do you prefer the subgenre? Let me know all your thoughts, all things Western oriented, in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.